your voice just suited this better. I like the way you read, and it just makes it more engaging.
A bottle of wine, empty, was perched on the edge of the tub, next to a glass, which was also empty. Next to the glass, there was a cutthroat razor, a new purchase made by Emma after Justin had kissed her goodbye and left for the club. The red-tainted water continued to spread across the bathroom floor. This had always been Emma's plan, from the moment she first found out Justin had received a red token. His fear, one of them at least, was of heights. Emma's was of abandonment. If Justin had to leave, she would go too. Together they could meet up in the next life. Matt Shaw, good to finally meet you and talk to you. How are you?
I am mostly okay. I've been working some night shifts, so I feel very tired, but otherwise I am alive. And
so what have you been doing? You've been moonlighting then, as well as being a best-selling author. You've also been moonlighting doing another job. You do it all.
I'm bored. I've been doing full-time writing for over a decade now.
Yeah.
So this is where I sit all day. This is my office.
Right.
Feet on the table, laptop on my lap. That's it. So I don't get out. I don't talk to people. So I thought, you know what? I'm going to do a warehouse job through the night.
Yes.
Because then I'm just moving stuff around, which gets my health up.
Yes, good plan.
So I'm thinking of, it's a crap job. I won't say what it is because I don't want to get sacked for saying that. But I'm thinking of it as being, I'm being paid to go to the gym 3 times a week.
Good way of looking at it. Yeah.
But yeah, working 10 o'clock start and finish at 6 o'clock in the morning is a killer.
Yeah.
It kind of takes the pressure off the writing side of things, because obviously I've been relying on my writing and my film work to bring in my income.
Yeah.
Which takes some of the passion away. So now I'm like,
oh, yeah.
Well, now I've got
that. Yeah.
this money coming in, so I know at least some of these bills are paid.
Yes.
And then it gives you your passion to be writing again. But it was weird because I finished work 6 o'clock Sunday morning. And as you're walking out of work, you say to the people, I'll see you later today. Because it's like you're going home for like a bit of a break and then you go straight back again.
Yeah.
And you're like, nah, this job sucks.
But wouldn't it be, because, to get stuff to write, you need to be influenced. Something needs to be happening. And if you're in your office all the time and things aren't happening, is there a danger as an author that you could become a bit, looking inward? So now to get out there, to meet people, to have this crazy job, to work these funny hours, to have sleep deprivation, this could be inspirational, couldn't it?
It is inspirational. Well, this job not so much, because it is you feel your brain leaking out all the time. You're walking around the warehouse, just counting stuff and moving things. You're just like, oh, kill me. But before I did this, I actually worked for the NHS.
Right.
I got a job as a 999 call handler for the ambulance service.
Wow.
And
the books would write themselves, wouldn't they?
Yeah. Well, I wrote a book called Frequent, which is based on a call handler decides to go and basically kill all of the frequent callers who phone up just to waste the time. Because there was a lady, I believe she's in prison now for doing it, but she used to phone us up and just sing songs down the phone. I won't tell you what song because it's a swear word, but then she would also just give us abuse. And she was nice, but she would phone all through the shift.
Wow.
But I stopped that job because someone on my Facebook friends list got me sacked because I was talking about the job on my Facebook page.
Yeah.
And I was basically saying, oh, today was really hard. This happened. But I'm not giving patient details. I'm not giving location. And that's what it says in their social media policy. You can't do this.
Yeah.
So I wasn't doing that.
Yeah.
But someone on my friends list complained to my boss. They called me in and said, we're going to suspend you for a month on full pay. So I was like, sweet. And then I was supposed to go in and plead my case on why I should stay there. And on the day of the hearing, I just got in touch and just said, you know what? I'm good.
Yeah.
It's like, keep the job.
Yeah.
I've got enough inspiration out of you guys now to go and fill some books.
Well, whereabouts are you? Where are we talking to you from?
I'm down in Southampton.
Southampton. Okay.
Yeah, just outside of Southampton.
Yeah. Closest I got to that. Well, no, I worked in Southampton briefly. I did, when I was still in radio, I used to do, I can't remember. I think it was Sunday mornings. It was either Saturday mornings or Sunday mornings. I think it was Sunday mornings on a station called Jack. I think it's changed its name now.
Yeah, I don't know that.
I think it's called Sam now. No, then it changed again. It was called Jack while I was there. But I didn't, I mean, I was living in Swindon at the time, so I used to drive down there and we went on the air at like 9 o'clock. So I used to drive to the radio station, go on the air, and then at like 12 o'clock or whenever the show finished, I'd drive straight home. So I don't really know much about Southampton. I lived in Bournemouth for twice for a long time, so we'd get to Southampton then, but not often. Yeah.
Bournemouth is nice. I like Bournemouth. But you've got very weird areas of Bournemouth. You've got like the super rich that live at the top of the hill.
And then you got Boscombe.
As you come down the hill, you've got like the poorer people who would rather do heroin.
Yeah.
But right at the bottom, you've got the old people. And the comedian Russell Howard said it was like the people from the top walked to the bottom, but they're so old they couldn't get back up. So they stayed living down at the bottom. And I quite liked that. And it made me laugh. Where are you based now?
I'm in Hitchin right now. Because I bounced around radio getting fired from pretty much every radio job for nearly 30 years and moving hundreds of miles to the next radio job. And I ended up with a job in Nebworth doing a breakfast show. And obviously after about 5 years, I got fired from that. And then I got a job in London and I was running a radio station. And then the pandemic hit. Just before the pandemic, they fired me. And I couldn't get anyone to even interview me because the pandemic was on. So I thought, well, I've got to work out a way of working from home. So I started doing audiobooks and loved it and thought to myself, to hell with radio, because you work your own hours in audiobooks. You meet authors. You just, as long as you hit the deadlines, it's great. I love it, and it's just, it's a transferable skill, I suppose, talking in a mic and
more people are going over to audiobooks now because I've actually published, over 300 books.
Yeah.
And hardly any of them are on audiobooks because it's not that I'm lazy. It's just I've got so much going on in writing and films and everything else in my life that I forget audiobooks.
Right.
The reason I pushed for the one that you've just recorded for me is because I'm writing a sequel to it because people loved the story.
Yeah.
So I thought, right, let's get the audiobook done. The sequel will be done by Christmas. And then, hopefully we'll talk and get another audiobook booked in for the sequel for it. Well, if it sells on audio.
Well, I think it should. I mean, join me in the club. It says it's extreme horror in the subtitle. You're not joking, because it is pretty dark, isn't it?
Some of it, yeah.
All right, some of it, not all of it. Some of it is about relationships and people at a certain time of life and the human condition, obviously. But when we get into the nitty-gritty, I don't want to say too much because I don't want to ruin it for anyone who wants to read it or listen to the audiobook. But it's basically, and I hope I'm not giving too much away here, and stop me if I go too far, resources are tight. Governments of the world have decided there are too many people and they've got to thin the herd, and they come up with this club where people get a token of one colour or another, and if it's the wrong colour, then you don't go home after this club, but you get to decide the way you go out. And one person in particular goes out in a particularly, I think horrific is the only way to describe it, in a particularly horrific way. There's an interesting food fetish involved. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, I know the one.
Okay. Well, that's extreme, isn't it? That's horror.
But the interesting thing is the character's name is Mary Kiefel, but that's actually based on a real person. She's one of my readers, and she supports pretty much everything I do, because my readers, they like it when I include them in books.
Okay.
So on my web store, I sell appear in a book. So, you get to be a character, you get to die horrifically in it. They're like, the more messed up, the better it is. Or I sell, I do personalized novellas. I don't know whether when you were a kid you had what we had, where they did Christmas books and it used to have your name in it and your pet's name.
Yeah, I never got one of those, but I know, yeah, that you can get them done. Yeah.
Well, my readers tell me what scares them in life, and they give me a list of their friends, relatives, and then I will go away and write them a book based on what scares them. And then, depending on which level they go for, they either get the only existing copy of that book, or it gets released to Kindle, but they've got a special hardback edition of it. But yeah, Mary, she's appeared in so many of my books.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. And did she say that's the way she'd want to go, or did you give her that?
No, I gave her that. Yeah.
Okay, you gave her that for something to happen to her. Wow.
Yeah, she just wanted to die in a book. I believe she bought that one through an Indigo campaign I ran for it. I can't quite remember, but yeah, I know Mary and I know her tastes and things.
Yeah.
Like she recently learned I also write erotica, so she wanted a bit of the naughty stuff in the book as well, which is why that's in there.
That is in there, yeah.
Because it's specifically what she said. I want it a little bit naughty in places. I was like, all right, I'll give you that, but I'm also going to really kill you.
Now you mentioned readers, and you mentioned your Facebook. You've got a crazy author page, haven't you?
Well, yeah. I mean, if you've been snooping, it's a little bit crazy.
Yeah. Is that important to you, to have that community that kind of appreciate what you do?
Well, it is. I mean, we're not going to get into all of this conversation. We basically, before we started recording, I told you of a certain situation that's come up recently where my work has crossed into a different area.
Mm-hmm.
My kind of writing, like the extreme horror stuff, it's not meant for the mainstream. It's supposed to be for people that like the dirtier, messy horror. That's not to say that I like writing horror and gore with no story. It has to have a point, otherwise it's boring.
Yeah.
But the people who actually enjoy the extreme horror, they're like the nicest people you can imagine. It's like the amount of conventions I do and we end up just hanging out because they're just nice people. And it's weird because crossing into the mainstream, I've recently had a lot of people calling me like, predator, incel, narcissist, telling me to kill myself, telling me that they're going to kill me. And you're like, this is the mainstream people attacking someone that they perceive is evil because of what they write.
Stuff that they wouldn't read.
Yeah. So I'm like, I'd rather stick with the extreme horror crowd because these people are nice and friendly. And these people over here, they just live in a different kind of planet to what I'm used to. It's like, if someone disagrees with me, I won't go and name call them or fat shame them, which is what happens in this part of the internet.
Wow.
I'm like, no, I'll stick with the extremes and I'll stick with my little community. So I've locked all my pages down. So you have to be a follower to actually comment and engage, because I don't need to hear, you know, oh, what was it the other day? I wrote a book called Hub, which is a orphanage which basically gives children to the Fred Wests of society.
Yeah. So pretty dark. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's not a book you can buy on Amazon. You can only buy this book by going through me, because
Right.
I know it's not the kind of reading material that a lot of people would like.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, because of the way it's sold, it's probably my biggest selling book. Like in 2 months, it made £19,000, and the audience it's hitting now are people that aren't expecting it, and they're turning around, especially with the sequel that came out, kids. They're like, "Oh, you're clearly a paedophile," and I'm like, "No, actually, I'm not."
It's funny how you've met these people, and they're nicer people than the people who aren't involved in this. And it is funny because we constantly hear that there's a correlation between extreme content and, violent acts. Yet there is no evidence to back that up. Like, for instance, there was a thing, it's not so much now, but there was a thing about violent video games for a long time, saying it's making violent kids and whatever. But if you look at the place where they enjoy the most violent video games, it's Japan, who have like the lowest violent crime rate in the world. So there's no correlation.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. Look, there are bad elements within the community. Like,
well, there are in any community.
Exactly. I mean, rewind a couple of years, and one of the guys, he would video call his female readers on Facebook. They go, "Oh my God, look who it is." They answer, and they see him naked, just, enjoying himself. So there are bad elements. And then when that happens, we all get tarred exactly the same way. They're like, "Oh, well, Matt Shaw writes this, so clearly he's this one person calling me a predator." And I'm like, well, my wife seems mostly happy. So,
yeah.
So I don't think.
But where's the evidence for that? I mean, there's, it's defamation in its purest form, isn't it? Mind you, though, it could help sales. Not maybe that you want to be thought of as a predator to sell horror.
These last couple of weeks, I actually turned to medication to help me out. So I went to the doctors because when you're getting messages saying kill yourself, and you're this and you're that, and everyone else is seeing these messages, because
the kind of people that are saying that are saying that you're bad when you're not telling anyone to kill themselves.
Yeah. And then as soon as you're trying to put forward of your side of the argument, they're just like, "Oh my God, you're so ugly." And you're like, well, I literally cannot argue with someone that is just going to resort to name calling because you've just proven yourself to be an absolute tool. There's no talking to people like that. But I turned to medication with the doctor's prescription to get me past, so I could learn to process it all, because it's the first time I've been under that much fire at once.
Yeah.
It's like every single platform I'm being hated upon, and I'm like, I'm used to one or two people calling me a dick, but this is a whole new level. Wow. So I've just released, actually, while we're on it, a postcard, which is magnetic, and it's a picture of me like that. And it's got all of the words that these people call me in graffiti. And over the top of that, it says, "Your mother still loves me." I thought, at this point now, because I release a calendar every year as well. One of my calendar pictures, I've got a shirt which has just got dicks all over it. And I'm leaning on the word #cancelled.
Right.
Because these people, they're not gonna cancel me because they were never my audience.
Yeah.
The people that are my audience, they understand I've got very typical dark British humour. I was raised with Rick Mail and the likes, so I'm pretty dirty, but it's harmless fun.
Yeah.
And the people that understand that are the people that should be reading my books.
Yeah.
If you read too much into anything I do, then really we're not supposed to be, our paths were never supposed to cross.
Yeah.
But so it's all fun and games.
You mentioned movies earlier because you've directed and produced a couple of films, haven't you?
Yeah, I've done a few. I've done. Well, we
I'm thinking of
started.
Monster and Next Door, the two I'm thinking of. Yeah.
Yeah, we started with Monster, and I think that was 2018, and then we went to Next Door, which was Next Door was interesting because it was always going to be an anthology film with lots of short stories with a central story going through the whole lot. Because I was a massive fan of Tales from the Crypt, so I wanted that kind of vibe. And when we were filming it, we just had so many problems that I was rewriting practically every time we were filming. But then we were also filming with celebrities, people from the land of soaps. So,
Right.
People from Hollyoaks, EastEnders, an actor from Lock, Stock and Two Smoking Barrels. And 90% of them were lovely. And I would love to work with them again. But making that film put me off working with named people. Because there was one person, I'm trying to direct them, and all they did was they just put their head back like this and shut their eyes while I'm talking. And I'm like, I don't know how to handle this. And another one of the actors turns out that he is incredibly homophobic. And I've got a relationship with my producer friend Justin Park where we've got banter, we laugh at things like that. So before every camera starts, you're supposed to say turn over.
Yeah.
Sound speed, camera speed, mark it, action. Because I was so flustered by this person because of just the way they were being, I was like, roll over. So Justin, he rolled onto his front and he stuck his arse in the air. And he's like, oh, go on then, be quick though. And this guy was not impressed. He was like, oh, lads, you have to be like that. Oh, and we were like, wow. I mean, we don't care if anyone is like that. We're not like that, but we joke around.
Yeah.
But the reaction from this person, knowing in mind that on the particular day they were filming, we had a homosexual makeup artist.
Right.
The makeup artist was highly offended by that person's reaction.
Not by what you did, by the reaction. Yeah.
Yeah, because it was in jest.
Yeah,
it was fun, we're just two lads being dicks. But the reaction of, oh my God, that is so disgusting. So that makeup artist never came back.
Oh, so proper offended, yeah.
Yeah, and it's just like I can't say anything to this person because of who they are. And I don't want it getting back to their agent that I was actually aggressive with them or tried putting them in their place when they stepped over the line, because they did repeatedly. But it just made me think I would rather work with like people my level, where we can just get to the film set, everyone knows their job, and we have a laugh while we're creating something.
Yeah.
But when they've got egos and things, it's just a whole different kettle of fish.
Wow. So has that put you off filmmaking?
Filmmaking put me off filmmaking.
Did it? It takes ages, doesn't it? It just takes bloody ages.
It's expensive. I mean, it's also hard because Justin, the guy that I always make the films with, he's got a full-time job. So obviously he needs to book his holiday. It needs to be something that we've really planned. And Justin's great at planning stuff. If you ever need spreadsheets done, give Justin Park a call. He's your man. But trying to tie everyone together to get to the same dates, I've spent well over £20,000 on film equipment that's gathering dust. Because my dream was I want to start a film company. So we launched Purgatory Pictures. And I want to run it like the Carry On team and the Hammer House of Horror people, where it's always the same people coming together to their films. I love it because it's a big family. Everyone's happy.
It's almost like a theatre company then, isn't it? Yeah, as far as... Yeah. Yeah.
And because we all know how each other work, it just makes us very, very quick
Yeah.
because we know what we're doing. However, this past month, my passion's been reignited again because it's going to sound bad because my nana died.
Okay.
So my bungalow is attached to my nana's bungalow. I moved in here so I could be closer to her, keep an eye on her because she was bedridden. She's got a carer, but it's nice to have someone, family, that literally I just walk next door and see her. Her bungalow is empty now, apart from her possessions. So I said to my dad, I said, do you mind if I go around there and make a film? And he was like, yeah, not a problem. So I shot the film by myself. So I did the camera work, the lighting, the acting, the special effects, the editing. Everything you see in that film is by me. And it's just over 40 minutes long.
What's that one called?
It's called A Stillness in the Air, or The Stillness in the Air, but it's not finished yet. I'm still doing the
Okay.
sound thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then because I've shown it around quite a few people, and a few people they actually cry when they watch it, because it's a guy goes into this dead person's house to sort through things, process his guilt. And the whole time he's doing it, in a lot of the shots, the spirit is there. Because basically I would film the shot once, turn the camera off, set a tripod up over in the far corner of the room, get the focus right, put a lens cap on the floor, move the tripod, hit record on camera, put the mask on, go and stand on the lens cap because I know that's the focal point. And then in the edit, I'd bring the two shots together, but I'll turn the opacity down so it looks like the spirit is barely there. And because it was it's a £60 mask I'm wearing, but because of the way it looks in the film, it just looks genuinely creepy. So a lot of the shots, you're there doing your acting, and in the background you've just got this spirit standing there, and the actor, the character doesn't know.
Right.
And it was interesting. Like, even there's a part where I'm going through the paperwork, and behind me the door closes. It's because I've got a little tiny bit of thread, and I've put it all the way round the furniture so I can hold the paperwork here. Camera's in front of me, and just pull the thread while I'm going through the paperwork to make the door close. But it's really effective. It looks great.
What a great way of working that's going to eliminate the problems with all the other people. Yeah.
Exactly. Now I don't have to
Yeah.
worry about being offensive or upsetting people or timings.
Somebody
so I
not
thought,
showing up on time and all the rest of it.
well, that's something that happened with Next Door, because we were filming 2 shorts in one day, and the morning we were filming, I had a message from the actor saying, "Yeah, I'm not coming. There's fog." I was like,
First rule of show business, the show must go on. Hello?
luckily it did, because I had another writer working with me that day. So we went into the living room to brainstorm in private how we can bring these 2 short stories together and make it the same character.
Right.
So
okay.
we did. I mean, that whole film is like, I told you I wanted a main story going through everything, linking all of the shorts. It was supposed to be, it's all set in one house, an estate agent and a postman keep coming together to talk about the previous story. But the day we're filming, we got one day to film those sequences, and it's super loud outside. The sun was ridiculously bright, and at the time I didn't have any ND filters for the camera. So we were like, right, it's overexposed and we can't get good sound. So again, I was like, right, how am I going to fix this? I've got it. We'll make all of these sequences 1920s style, black and white. So we'll speed the footage up a little bit, and we'll have cards come up with the dialogue.
Great.
So then when I was in the edit, I was rewriting the dialogue to make it fit on a card.
Right.
And that ended up being very, very funny when you watch it back. It's like it was better than what I had originally written. And I love those happy accidents when you're making films. But yeah, this last one where it's the one man show, I've decided I want to do another one about a guy going around the country with a suitcase, reminiscing about a relationship that he had. A way of letting go of the relationship because they're no longer together. So he's going to all the places where they used to go, where they met, the fair and things like that. And then, by the end of it, in typical Matt Shaw style, she's in the suitcase that he's been lugging around because he's hacked her up. And I thought that's just another fun one-man film I can do by myself just to keep the brain going.
Yeah. So how did you find then? Have you had your books turned into audiobooks before, or is this the first one?
No, I've done some myself.
Have you?
Yeah.
So why did you decide to farm this one out to a stranger?
Because quality.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. You should definitely go and listen to all of my audiobooks, especially the ones I narrated. But yeah, I mean, I got a lot of auditions come through for Join Me in the Club, and a lot of people seem to be using AI to do narration now.
No. How can that work?
It doesn't. As soon as you turn it on, you can go, this is not right. Like, once upon a time, there was, you're like, no, I don't want Stephen Hawking reading my book.
People put AI in as an audition?
Yeah.
I find that amazing.
But this one, I thought it needed to be more of a serious tone as well. So the books that I've narrated myself, with the exception of Roe versus Wade, the abortion thing, because I wrote a book based on that, just because it pissed me off that women have the rights snatched away from them. That's the only really serious one I've narrated myself. And I do a good enough job. Don't get me wrong, it's serviceable, but I wanted this to have a proper quality about it. I've used other other narrators in the past who they did a good enough job. It was good, but your voice just suited this better. I like the way you read, and it just makes it more engaging. So yeah, I'll probably stick to doing my comedy books, just because I can do that in my voice. Like I rewrote the Bible,
right?
And I called it the Holy Fucking Bible. And I did the narration for that one just because I read it more like a stand-up comedy show.
Yeah.
Just because it's so bizarre and stupid that people are laughing over it instead of worrying about the actual quality, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, I had fun reading this one. It is dark, but they are great characters because they're quite normal people. These are because this thing has been thrust on them and they have to deal with it. And so I could relate to just normal people, how they would react to getting a token that says, hey, you're going to this thing, you have to do this. And there's like no way you can get out of it. And how they would deal with that. That for me was what I found
I find the human condition interesting to write about. So I actually prefer to write real characters, as it were. The more crazy psychopathic characters, they're okay to write, but they're kind of boring at the same time. I prefer damaged souls because in reality more of us are damaged. A lot of us won't admit that, but we've all got demons and things, and it's like, how would you react in that situation? Like, what would you do if you got the token that says you have to go and kill someone? And book 2 is going to be, obviously, the way book 1 ends, it's going to be continuing. Sorry, there's a little gnat in here. It's annoying me. It's going to be continuing on from a certain point in book 1 that I'm sure you would remember at the end. But it's also going to be the aftermath of the characters that survive. It's like, how do they move on with their life knowing what they have just done that night?
Yeah.
Because there might be free therapy for the people that have been involved, but as someone that's been in therapy's shit. So I don't think that would help me come to terms with, oh, I've just killed someone.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Right. Well, it's a great book. It's called Join Me in the Club. It is extreme horror. You can check Matt out at his Crazy Authors page. I hope you don't mind that description, but on Facebook.
Just check it out if you like typical British humour.
Yeah.
Okay. If that
Okay.
offends you, don't check it out. I'm not for you, but by all means have a listen to the book, because that's fairly clean apart from being a little bit extreme in places.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Okay.
a
Yeah.
little bit crazy on Facebook.
Yeah. Join me in the club. There is a link in the description. If you're watching this on YouTube, there's a link in the description that will take you to the Amazon page where you can play an extended clip there to hear what it's about. And that extended clip gives you a pretty good idea of what it's all about. Have a quick listen to that. It was a pleasure to work with you, Matt. I really enjoyed it, and I hope we can
thanks
work
for doing
together
it.
on the sequel. It was just a lovely, lovely book.
Well,
What's next for you then?
Before we get into that, if you want
Okay.
to do more work with me, by all means let me know, because I can easily set up more books, longer books and things
Yeah,
like
let's
that.
do it. Let's do it. Yeah.
I've got one which is it's a massive anthology, so it would, I don't have a deadline. So it would just be as and when you can fit it in if you want to read it. But that's by a lot of authors.
Yeah, okay.
So that kind of thing I think should do really well on Audible. But as for me, what's next? I am releasing another book under the name of Mr. E Scares.
Mr. E Scares, okay.
Yeah, because I prefer writing children's books.
Right.
And now the people that go and listen to Join Me in the Club are probably going to be thinking, what the hell? Because I hate children, but I love their imagination.
Right.
And I think we crush their imagination at far too young an age.
Oh, the education system is designed to crush their imagination.
Yeah, and I think I'm very much, I love like Roald Dahl. He was he would champion the imagination for kids and things. So I'm writing a book called Dead Teds, which is about a 12-year-old kid that basically butchers all of his sister's teddy bears.
Right.
And it's a dark and stormy night, of course, when it all happens, and there's magic in the air, which somehow brings these butchered teddy bears back to life. So they're going to go after the boy that just butchered them. And then it's going to be like, the moral of the story is basically be nice to each other. And if you come across a teddy bear that's butchered, love it like it used to be loved before it was torn apart, because otherwise it's going to kill you. But with that, I've also been making these teddy bears. So if you bear me 2 seconds, because I've actually got.
Oh,
got
let's see this.
Right there. So yeah, we've got that one.
Oh, yeah.
But they come, fully tagged.
Yeah.
And then it says how they died on the back with their name and signed by Mystery Scares. And then they all just. So it's just something fun just to keep my mind active when I'm not writing, because it gets a little boring, just doing the same thing again and again and again.
Mm-hmm.
So I like to see what I can do to change my life up.
Yeah. Well, thanks for letting me be part of it. So far, just the one book, but I'm open to do more.
Sweet. I'll definitely send you some more.
Great stuff. Matt Shaw, thank you so much.
Thank you.